I started making videos because it's harder for someone to bootleg your artwork. Because if you post a static image on the Instagram feed, then people take screenshots and it's up on, Cafe Press or whatever, all the made to order websites.
Yep.
But if you share a video of you holding it at a slightly askew angle, it's a lot harder for them to get a quality image. And so it's just like one little piece of resistance for the people that might try to, steal artwork online.
It's time for another episode of Best of the Tour. This is the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite gig posters, tour merch, and the artists who bring it all to life. Let's start the show.
This is episode number 21 of the Best of the Tour podcast. We're calling this one Add Noise. We're here with Add Noise Studio, artist extraordinaire, Mike Tallman. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, we've known your name for quite some time. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that we're big fans of Goose and Dave Matthews Band and Trey Anastasio and Mount Joy. So we've seen your work pretty regularly over the last few years. And so it's really exciting for us to get the opportunity to talk shop and to kind of like pick your brain about the things that we've been seeing from the collector side. But one of the things I think we wanted to kind of jump right into is some upcoming events. You've got, DesignerCon coming up. So like if you know, as the kids say, DesignerCon is a big convention that happens annually.
Yeah, it used to be sort of California-based, and they've moved it, I think, to Las Vegas in the last couple of years. I've been aware of it for years from sort of the art and the toys and the collectibles space. It's this sort of melting pot of all of the things that I feel like I'm the target demographic that we chase right after. And so, you're getting ready for DCon. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this one is actually kind of interesting because it started in Pasadena, California, which is where I live. And then it moved down to the convention center in Anaheim for many years. And then it just moved to Las Vegas. I think they've done it in Vegas twice now, the last couple of falls. But they added one in the summer next month or, in June. And they're doing it back here in Pasadena. So,
cool.
So it'll still be, the one in November will still be in Las Vegas like usual. But they added this second one for the year. And I haven't been doing a ton of vending. I do a few Flatstock shows here and there whenever I can. But this one was like, it's 5 minutes from where I live. It's 5 minutes from my studio. So I have to get on board for this one. So it's really exciting. And then I've got, some friends. There are a few other California artists that are going to be here. I know Tuffy is coming down from the Bay. I think Dave Kloc is going to have a table. But this one is just right in my backyard. So I'm really excited about it.
That's so cool. What is, what's your favorite part about going to events like this?
Well, most of the vending I do is poster show specific. It's usually flat stock events, or I've done color haiku a couple times. I don't do a ton of the other like art fairs and craft fairs. Some poster artists spend a lot of their summer doing those other kind of fairs every weekend and that kind of thing. And I don't do a lot of that. So most of what I do, I really look forward to seeing all my poster friends and a lot of the shop talk and, just good quality time with people who have a similar career and mindset and have these same experiences. Cause it's kind of an interesting, weird little niche career that we've all carved out when you do this. So just the getting together and getting FaceTime with your friends and, even commiserating about things that have gone wrong in the print studio or whatever it may be. It's really, a lot of it is about the FaceTime and the quality time with friends and the networking you get to do and on that level. I really love.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to go to a show in Atlanta this past winter because we're on the East Coast. And so to catch a poster show is not always the easiest for us. But the Rock Poster Society put on the Atlanta Rock Poster Show, and we were down there for that. And totally got that vibe that you're talking about, where it really is this sort of community opportunity, that you get from these events like DesignerCon, where I think it's good to find your people, whether you're a creator or a collector, to know that like you are not alone. You're part of a much larger community of real people that exist in the real world, not just behind the internet keyboard.
I mean, that's really why I love to do it. I mean, sure, I want to go there and meet people, and I want to hopefully sell some stuff and make some money if I can. But there's so much more intangible value to just being there with the people that do this same job. And it's really special too, because I have a lot of friends who are not so much in the poster side, but they're artists and printmakers and craft people who do these other kind of craft fairs. And not all of these communities are as friendly and supportive as the poster community is what I've learned. You know, this is just from what I've been told. But the poster world is not competitive. Everybody has their own thing that they do. And, you know, we all leave there super inspired by seeing what our friends have been working on. You know, I see everybody's work on Instagram and it's this big. And then I get to go see, you know, a booth full of my friends' work in person. And it's just like recharges my creative battery for the next, you know, 3 or 6 or 8 months or whatever it may be.
Well,
so it's special. It's important.
Hey, if you're like us, you love supporting the independent artists who make the art for the posters we love. So if you're looking for a new poster, look no further than shop.invisibleindustries.com. You can find their print collections, including art prints, limited edition prints, remarks, original works, and much, much more.
So go on over to shop.invisibleindustries.com to go check out what they've got in store. Yeah, and behind you, for those who are watching video, you're in kind of your inspiration space, and there's a lot of artists that I kind of recognize some of them behind you. Do you pick up work along the way when you go see them at different shows to add to your wall?
Almost everything I have behind me here is stuff that I've picked up at various shows. You know, this is a Dave Kloc that he did. That was a pandemic job, I think, but you know, this is a Joe Triscari, Moonlight Speed, and Jason Abraham Smith, Lurk and Destroy. That's a collaborative piece that they did. Over here is a Ryan Dugan for a screening of Stop Making Sense, which I'm a huge Talking Heads fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's my buddy Nevermade Cisco, one of his pieces that I got at Flatstock. Some DKNG.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Dan Styles. This one is from Flatstock #1.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I found that, so there's a big flea market here in Pasadena once a month that is at the Rose Bowl. And this flea market, it's once a month and it takes over the entire parking lot. It goes around the stadium and in all their parking lots. And I mean, there's thousands of vendors there. And I just happened to be walking around with my wife and came across this Flatstock #1 print already framed.
Oh my God.
And we just go there to walk around a lot, you know, like, I didn't intend on being there to even buy anything, and I found that, and I had to run and find an ATM and get cash for the guy because there was no way I was going to let that go by.
No. Yeah, that's one of those ones that it's like, got to get it, put it up on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Because by the time I started doing Flatstock events, I think it was like, you know, Flatstock 82 or something was my first. So it's nice to have #1 on the wall right there for me to be inspired every day.
That's really, really cool. So you you kind of spend your time in between being a printmaker for yourself, right? For your own artwork, but you also print for other artists as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it's something I'm just starting to do more of. I've been making gig posters. I think my first real screen printed gig poster was in 2017.
Okay.
And I had years and years of making, you know, promotional flyers and that kind of stuff prior to that. But I didn't actually start doing my own printing until I moved to Los Angeles in 2022.
Oh, wow.
So I just started printing a few years ago. And, you know, it takes some time to get comfortable. It's a process you learn. And over the last couple of years, Dave Kloc is a really close friend of mine. And so he was the first person who hired me to print something of his, and we just did an art print that it's actually hanging on the other wall that way. But he was the first one to hire me, and then it would be kind of like, you know, once every 6 months or so, Dave might call me to do something. And then now, like just this year, it's been almost once a month that Dave and I will finish a job. I'll print something for him. And then he's like, hey, I got another one. Let's do this, you know? And then I've just started to kind of open up to a little bit more printing for other folks too. But a lot of it I stick to like friends of mine whose work I know and understand pretty well. And I don't think I am ever really going to be interested in just being like a full-blown commercial print shop. But when the opportunity rises, if I have the time in my schedule, I mean, I really love, getting my hands dirty and getting ink on the table and really focusing on the printmaking. So I'm doing more of that when I can.
So have you gotten into that, like, kind of like full-blown setup for it, like where you've gone out, you've gotten the equipment, or do you rent space at somebody else's print machines, or how does that work?
Yeah, so part of why I didn't try to get into it sooner, when I started doing the silkscreen posters in almost a decade ago, I lived in Denver before I moved out to Los Angeles. And I used to send most of my print work to a studio called Ink Lounge.
Yep.
So Stuart Alden is the owner and printer at Ink Lounge, and he was kind of my mentor. A lot of my stuff is very graphic design oriented. It's kind of difficult. It can be difficult to print because I don't always use a key line. A lot of times it's just shapes that have to line up, and I didn't really know the process super well. And Stu was the guy that I would send him a print, hey, Stu, I need you to print these for me. And he would pick apart my file and, send me back a list of notes of here's why this sucks. This is wrong. This is wrong,
It's good feedback, right? Good to get some
feedback.
Absolutely.
That's the best way to learn, is to just, I want somebody to tell me what's wrong, and so I can learn how to fix it. And Stu is very much a mentor to me in learning the process, but he also has a bigger commercial shop with a semi-auto press. And to me, that's what you needed. I used to go to his shop a lot. I would send him a file, he'd prep everything, and then I would usually go over there and we would mix ink colors together and make sure the inks were all good to go. And then I'd go home and he would print the posters. But so that's what screen printing was to me, was a big commercial shop that you need all this equipment. And then I moved to Los Angeles and I made friends with an artist. His name is John Nurl. His page is Nurl Says. Okay. And I got to talking with John, and he was like, oh, yeah, I've been printing, for 15 years, and I do it in the spare bedroom in my apartment. And I didn't know that there was such a, there's very much a punk rock DIY side to screen printing. That was totally foreign to me because I just kind of fell backwards into this. So John, I went over and did some printing with him in his apartment and learned really how DIY it could be. And then immediately started, I found a woodworker on Craigslist locally, and he built me a table with hinge clamps, and I built this black box for, if you're looking over here, is my exposure unit. It's completely DIY. Wow. But over the last 4 years, I've been steadily upgrading. But I started just with a table with hinge clamps, did that for a couple of years, then upgraded that to, I built a vacuum table on top of that. Ooh. And then just this last year, I upgraded to what's called a one-arm press, which has the big, it's kind of a rowing motion. It has the big arm attachment. And so I just started printing with that at the beginning of this year, and now I'm on that 100% of the time. And then this is a studio space that I rent here in Pasadena as well.
So I love watching you do a lot of these kind of time-lapse videos that you've been putting up on your Instagram, especially some of your more recent work. There was the one that we just saw for the Toy Factory project, which is really cool. But it's really neat to see. I mean, obviously this is sped up in exponentially quicker than it is, but this is hands-on, time-consuming work, which, I mean, unfortunately we don't see that a lot anymore, with sort of on-demand printing, or things that just, in our brain, we go to the merch booths and we come back with our posters, but we don't even think about all the hands that maybe have touched this, not just from the design kind of impetus of it but to who's doing the screen printing and doing the color drags and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, and it's important to me. I mean, because again, I'm more of a graphic designer than a lot of my friends are these insanely talented illustrators, and more of what I do has a lot to do with clicking with the mouse and that kind of stuff. And so to me, a lot of times I feel more like I'm making art when I'm putting the ink onto the paper. I really enjoy that side of it. And then, like you said, on any given job, I personally will handle every single print 5 to 10 times. And that's important to me. It's like a little bit of love, goes into the paper along with the ink every time you handle it. And that's something that I really treasure. And so I like to make the videos. It's kind of a twofold thing. For one, showing people that these are handmade prints. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people assumed I started shifting to those videos because, Instagram is competing with TikTok and blah, 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 all that. That was not my motivation at all. Honestly, I started making videos because it's harder for someone to bootleg your artwork. Because if you post a static image on the Instagram feed, then people take screenshots and it's up on, Cafe Press or whatever, all the made to order websites.
Yep.
But if you share a video of you holding it at a slightly askew angle, it's a lot harder for them to get a quality image. And so it's just like one little piece of resistance for the people that might try to, steal artwork online. If I can make it a little bit more difficult for them, I will. Yeah. Right, I mean, they'll still, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But if I can hinder them a little bit, I will.
I'm with Erica. I think watching the process of it is just fascinating. Yeah. And it really, it shows that sort of manual labor that you put into it really has these incredible results, because I think for what you're doing, I mean, the vibrancy of the colors, they just really, there's a richness to it. There's a depth to it. So kudos, man. It's really, really
thank you. Stuff. It's handmade with a lot of love.
What's the largest run you've done so far? I mean, I just call it by hand because, I mean, again, watching your videos, it's literally you like moving the brush over the screens and then pulling the papers and like putting them on a drying rack. And I know I'm butchering the terms of art in the industry, but it's what I'm seeing, it's like, wow, this is really like the kind of thing that you would do in art class in high school or something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I just switched to the one-arm press at the beginning of this year. I spent a good chunk of last year kind of drafting my plans for it. I went to Denver and worked with a buddy of mine, Brendan, who has a studio. His Instagram is called Rabies Babies. And my press is very much designed based on his plans. And I made some modifications, but I went to his studio to learn about how he built his own press. And he was like, man, I'll give you all my info. You can do whatever you want with it. So he's super generous. And then I spent some time, developing my plans and hired a carpenter to build my table with me. But I just started with that at the beginning of this year. So prior to that, I was all hand pulling every single, and the biggest runs I've done, I haven't done anything on the new one-arm rig. Okay. That was bigger than some of the ones I did for when I was hand printing. And there was one I did for Goose a couple years ago, where it was for Homedale, New Jersey or something. And that one, because at the time, I don't think they still do an online edition, but because
they've kind of dropped that.
They dropped it, sadly. I will say, if they're listening, I missed that because...
Well, what? I could be wrong, but I think they may have dropped that because they learned that when a band does their online edition as well, it kind of ends up hurting the poster artist, because we end up, a lot of what we rely on is our AP sales after a show. Yeah. That's a big part of the equation for us. Okay. And I think, I don't know for sure that this is the case, but I think that Goose may have learned that the online edition kind of ends up hurting the artists they're hiring a little bit, and that may be why they dropped them.
Yeah, if that sounds right on point with kind of the
type of band and the type of
which is very noble of them if that is accurate. But I did one for them back when they were still doing an online edition, and so with the show edition, the online edition, the foil variant, my AP copies, and then you always print extras to help cover for any misprints along the way. I think that was something like 600 posters, and that was a funny one. I was at my old studio, and that was in kind of near, just south of the Highland Park area in East LA. And I was printing the first color. It was a 5-color print. And I was partway through the first color, and there was a big earthquake in Los Angeles. So I was in this little shack of a studio, and the building shook for, just 2 or 3 seconds. But it was like the most violent one I've felt since I've lived here. And I stopped printing, called home to my wife, make sure she's okay, everything was fine, and then went back to printing and finished the run. And I didn't realize at the time my screen had shifted.
Oh,
It shook my studio enough that the screen shifted.
just a little off.
And I went back and just kept printing. And now all of my prints are just, I mean, it was imperceptible to me at the time. But then the next day I come back, I unrack all my prints, I get set up to print the second color, I get partway through. And then all of a sudden, every single color is not lining up. It's consistently misregistered the same way. And I had to stop. I'm like pulling my hair out, trying to think what's going on. And then I realized it was the earthquake the day before. So then, and it was on the first color that this happened. So all the subsequent 4 colors, I would have to reverse collate when I would unrack my prints so I could identify that spot.
Wow.
And then when I would get to that spot, make an adjustment on a run of like 600 posters for 5 colors.
Holy smokes.
So that was a big learning experience for me.
That's not one of those things that you hear very often. I mean, it's like a total like fluky thing that would happen, right? It's like,
yeah, it wouldn't even have occurred to me. And that was at the time I had my press was just a vacuum table with 2 hinge clamps on it.
wow.
And I told some of my print friends about it and they were like, hey, you should just add more clamps. Add more hinge clamps. So I ended up adding 2 more and then always made sure screw them down super tight every time just to be safe. Luckily, I mean, I haven't experienced anything like that since, but that was kind of a unique and frustrating learning experience. But I got through it.
Only imagine. And you've done a bunch of work that obviously, if you've listened, Mike and I are big fans of Goose. We follow the band around. And you had done one, actually, I think it was out was it LA?
It was definitely in the Cali run.
In the Cali run.
24.
Yeah, it was like a pool with the flamingo floaty was in it, which is, a kind of a little bit of an Easter egg if you went to Goosemas in 2024. Bingo. The Goosemas bingo.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, and that piece. And then you had mentioned that I didn't realize this. You'd done one for the University of Iowa. They did like a free concert on campus. And is that your alma mater?
That's where I went to school. And so they contacted me. And that one, what I did for that, they had talked about making a poster. It was actually just a t-shirt. But it was a shirt that the university printed a bunch and they were just giving them away. It was like a while supplies last, come get a shirt it was the kickoff weekend of the semester last August. But then the band was so happy with the design that they were like, hey, we want to print some and sell some at the merch booth too. So they ended up making a bunch more than originally expected. But that was special too, because it's where I went to school and to get to do something for my alma mater was special and kind of leaned on the venue where they played. Hampshire Music Hall has kind of a history of some older posters. They used to host shows going back to the 70s and stuff. And so I tried to lean into kind of the aesthetic of what they used to do for vintage posters back then a little bit. And yeah, it was a fun, special one.
Yeah, it was unique. It was a little bit different, but it was just really cool because, again, I don't think there's really a lot of music that you can go to that's like free anymore, right? Like if you happen to be a student on campus or happen to be traveling through, it was just a free concert. We had some friends who live in the area and who went, and it was like, that's just such a cool thing,
I missed those free t-shirt days in college. I lived off of those. I mean,
literally
probably at least 50% of my t-shirts in college had some type of MasterCard or something on the back.
That's right. Sign up for a credit card.
Right. The giveaways at the basketball games. I never got a free band t-shirt out of it. That would be really amazing.
Let alone Goose, like a band at that tier putting on a big free community show. Like that's a really amazing thing for the university to do, I think.
If you're like me and Erica, you love passing out stickers while attending concerts with friends, making new friends. Where do you get these stickers? Look no further than stickerrobot.com. They are renowned for the highest quality sticker printing on the planet, world famous, custom outdoor silkscreen sticker printing, free US shipping, and we have a promo for you. If you visit stickerrobot.com/invisible, you will receive 10% off your next high quality screen printed sticker order. So act fast.
going right now.
Right now.
Right now. And also, thanks to our friends over at the Rock Poster Society. If you don't know TRPS, they are a nonprofit behind the world's longest-running rock poster collection shows. That includes the Festival of Rock Posters in San Francisco, which is a bucket list thing for Mike and I to go to. They have been championing the art of poster for decades. They support both the artists and those people who collect them and preserve them. If you want to get involved, go over to trps.org if you want to become a member and check out their upcoming events.
Check them out.
One of the things that I noticed about your artwork, sometimes it has, and I'm thinking specifically about, you have, it's an art piece of like the peace sign, but it's kind of like, almost like it reminds me of the old, like when you stared at the images and like your eyes blur a little bit to kind of like reveal the new image.
Yeah,
like the magic eye.
Fingers crossed, like we're hopeful for peace, right? It's like kind of like this.
I call that one hope,
like
hope for peace.
Nope, I was telling a fib. I'm not, but
that is the other interpretation that I've talked about with people. But I call it hope for peace as more of a, the optimistic look on things. But, the way things are these days, you never know. Open for interpretation, I suppose.
But I mean, that's what we need more of, right? Is that hope? Is like, because until we get the actual peace everywhere, I mean, what else can we do but hope for it, be vocal for it, and try to will it into existence?
Absolutely.
Your artwork and the color schemes that you use are very bold and they're bright. Where did that kind of inspiration come from? Are you, a fan of somebody else's work that, you've taken inspiration from over years? Like, how did you cultivate kind of your style that's what we see nowadays?
A lot of it, I think, comes from, I like a lot of vintage stuff, a lot of artwork from the 70s and kind of mid-century and all that. But definitely one of the first, contemporary poster artists that caught my eye and kind of piqued my interest in that world was Dan Stiles, who, remains a huge inspiration to me. I think he's super, super talented and also one of the smartest guys doing it. So he was somebody that really inspired me when I was kind of getting my feet wet in this world. And then, I don't know, I kind of have developed that style, but I have a few different styles I work in, which I think it can be a hindrance in a way, but that's always kind of been the way I work, is to be interested in a lot of different things. I've never been a specialist at any one thing. I'm like kind of good at a lot of things, but not really exceptionally good at any one of them.
I don't know. I think some of these are pretty exceptional, man. So
well, thank you. Of course, I'm my own worst critic. That's how all of us are. You by the time you finish a job, it's like, oh, I never want to see that again. But it was the same kind of way. Like, I was a musician for a long time, and I would play. I had kind of like a funk rock band, but I played in reggae bands, and I also played mandolin in bluegrass bands. So,
oh wow.
So like kind of having these different styles, because, on the design side, I also like doing photo collage stuff, and I like to do like abstract typographic pieces and all these kind of things. And so creatively, I've kind of been all over the place, but it kind of translates. It's just always been that way, from my musical side to my visual art side. So, I kind of wish I had the discipline and focus to get really good at one of these things. But
I like
it's just kind of how I work.
Because I think music and gig posters align with that, right? Like, it depends on not just the band, but maybe the particular song or a blend of the band and the venue and the time we're in, and maybe what album they're promoting, what style they're in, and the fact that you can change it up, I think brings a lot of versatility to that. And freshness, right? So that we know that you might do another poster at some point for Goose. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, put it out there in the universe. But it might be like, wow, that's a totally fresh take on it, right? Something that you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah, and I mean, part of my process is I typically start with my sketchbook, and I sit down and do little quick thumbnail sketches on paper. And when I start to hone in on an idea that I think feels like it's worth exploring, the next step is to think about, okay, how will I actually render this image? Will it be a very simple graphic thing with just very general shapes, or will it be a little more detailed? Will it have a key line? Will it be a little more of an illustration? So a lot of times it's like the idea comes first, and then I have to funnel it through this. How do I render the image?
Yeah.
Which,
And I imagine,
sometimes that
I
can
was
be a
gonna say,
frustrating part. Sometimes
Yeah.
just on my own, I'm like, oh, kicking myself for like, I wish I was so good at just drawing, sitting down with the pen. So I would just know this is what I do. But, it's just how I've always worked. So for better or worse.
But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I imagine that the work with the printing, right? The printing press that yourself probably has impacted some of that too, right? Like now that I've got to print this, and like those notes that you were talking about, it's probably helps you funnel down a little bit, maybe even more.
Absolutely. Like knowing if I'm going to print a piece, that absolutely informs decisions I make along the way, going all the way back to like even just concepts and, really loose sketching. I'm always thinking about printing and how something will translate. Or, will it be, I keep, white paper and kind of natural off-white paper in stock. Those are my house papers that are always here. But if I'm going to do something on like a specialty French paper on a red stock or a black stock, I start thinking about that early on in the process, and that informs my decision making all along the way as well. So it's definitely a game changer when I started printing. It changes the way I think from start to finish.
Do you have an affinity, or do you like working with foil papers? I know we've talked to a lot of artists about like whether they like to work with it, whether they don't. We had a nice conversation with Tuffy about, because he's also, does a lot of printmaking, kind of very graphic styles. And he was telling us a little bit about science behind some of the ink that's coming out now. And so, we've asked a couple artists here and there, and some people are like, yeah, I love the foil, love using it as kind of a design piece. And then some are like, it's not really my favorite thing to use,
My favorite thing about it is that foil doesn't shrink or expand the way that regular paper can. So as a printer, printing on regular paper stocks, it really is dependent. You have to control the humidity in your studio and all these environmental factors. And the ink soaks in, and paper can expand or shrink. And that can cause problems with your registration on future colors. And you kind of have to make creative decisions along the way of, if the paper expanded by, even a 1/16 of an inch, then you have to decide what's the most important area to make, the registration has to be 100% here, which means over here, it might be a little off. And that's part of, printmaking. But foil doesn't have that same kind of elasticity to it, because the ink doesn't absorb into it. The ink has to sit on top and fully cure on top of it. Yeah. So the nice thing about foil is that you don't have that environmental factor in the same kind of way that can cause frustration when you're on press trying to make decisions. But my favorite thing, I don't love just taking a piece of art and then throw it on a foil. Sure, that's fine. But my favorite thing is like, if we're going to print something on foil, let's make a reason for it. And like, there's one that I did for the Avett Brothers a couple of years ago on their New Year's Eve run. And it's like a big resonator guitar, like the big metal guitar.
Yep.
And so it's like we use the foil to represent the metal of the guitar. So if foil is really important to a piece, then I want to utilize the paper as an element in the design. And that's when I enjoy it the most. And, if a client says, hey, do 100 on paper and 20 on foil, that's fine. And people, the foils are always going to sell out first because people do love them, and that's great. But to me, it's most impactful when there's a concept attached to it, and it's not just take this, throw it on foil.
Yeah. We're always distracted by shiny things. Like for us, if we have the opportunity to get something that's on a foil and we love the print and we want it part of our collection,
and it works,
right? But sometimes you're right. Like there have been times where we've gotten a foil print. I get home and I'm like, I need a magnifying glass. Like, was it purposeful?
Right.
Or was it necessary? Would it have been better to print it on maybe like a piece of like a color paper, or
I'm a big fan of that, of the utilizing the different colors of paper or even an ink variant, right? That going back to what we were talking about, the web store drop.
Yep.
One of the cool things, and this happens a lot now in AP drops too, right? Like there'll be a different ink,
a color variant.
Picked up.
Yep.
And that's always fun, I think.
Yeah, and I've done a couple pieces over the years too, where like the main edition was on a black paper stock, and then we would do a variant on like navy blue paper, and it's very similar. But then we might put like a layer or two of glow in the dark ink on the variant, you know. So there's other ways to make an interesting variant that don't just rely on, you know, hey, throw it on foil, which is, you know, ultimately like whatever the client wants. This is also a service we provide a lot of the time. It's one thing for me to make my own self-initiated art prints, then I have full control over whatever I'm doing. But if a client is hiring me to do a job for them, I'll print whatever they want, and I'm happy to. But yeah, if the foil is really the important thing on a job, then like let's lean into it and let's find a way to utilize it as part of the concept that is, you know, part of the bigger picture of a piece.
I mean, I know you mentioned that you do a lot of printing for Dave Kloc. We've had Dave on the podcast. He's an awesome dude. We love his artwork. And one of the pieces that was a grail for Mike was a goose piece by Dave. And I'm actually looking at it. It's the Tiffany lamp one from Carnation, Washington.
Oh, so good.
And he had printed it on like a Tiffany blue paper was the regular. But there was I didn't even know this existed. And for the holidays, I was trying to find him a gift that he had been looking for that, you know,
I had no idea
it even existed.
happening.
And I pinged Dave and I was like, you don't by any chance have any of this available? Because we did a mystery tube, which is really fun.
Cool.
Like, I love when you guys do that because honestly, one, it's a cool way to get art that like we maybe aren't familiar with, or like from posters from bands that we don't, you know, follow. But he's like, oh yeah, I got one. I thought it was just on the blue foil, but he sent it. It was on like this gold paper that he said is what's used. I don't know. He told me this. He was like, it's what's like toothpaste boxes when you get
cool.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, it's really cool.
It's really neat.
But it's really neat because for us, I mean, we put our posters on the wall. I love a glow in the dark. Like we have a black light flashlight that the kids love to run around and be like, what's this look like? Especially when you get a new one. But when it's glow in the dark and it's like, whoa, charge it up. I think that could be like the next cool frontier of like unique things for us. You know, we've got all the different foils and the sparkles and the hollows and the hazies and the embossed, and you know, those are really cool to have. But I'm right there with Mike. Like really different colored paper would be really cool. Different glow in the dark kind of like,
yeah, any ink change up, really. I would imagine that the manufacturers of the papers, right, are probably always trying to innovate, probably keep stock of what's popular, but I would think innovate. I mean, I've seen in the last 2 years, I think it started last year, Dave Matthews Band utilized like a foil that actually has their logo, the Fire Dancer.
Oh, cool.
Embedded in the foil so that
like a holographic pattern.
Yeah, and it was like, that's really cool. Pretty impressive. You know, I mean, many, you know, I don't know if all bands, but there's always iconography around the band, right, that you follow. And so you could probably find something specific for each band to sort of embed in that. And if they're already doing that for one or two bands out there, that's why I imagine there's that innovation happening in the paper space.
Yeah, and even I know there are manufacturers on the foil side specifically that are developing even just different colors of foil. So it's less of, because, you know, I'll occasionally, like, I typically stick to like standard silver rainbow foil, sometimes like a lava swirl, or my other go-to, depending on the artwork, is gold foil. I really like gold a lot. But again, it has to make sense with the artwork and the colors you're putting on top of it. But then, you know, there are people that are working on, you know, reds and blues and even like black foil and, you know, all those kind of interesting things, which I haven't experimented with any of those yet. But I do think it's cool that they're, you know, trying to develop this into kind of a more broad offering that opens up to where it doesn't necessarily have to just like, you know, I like to use foil for the concept when I can, but that means it doesn't necessarily have to be just like a metal looking thing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty sick.
I think that's cool.
Are bands pretty flexible in your experience with in the AP drop? I know there's usually different variants. You know, there's like sort of like the standard AP, maybe a rainbow, maybe a wavy foil or whatnot. Do you think that they would be open to maybe the AP drop doing one of those color foils where maybe the merch booth didn't have it, right? It's like, hey, it's exclusive through the artist jade green foil or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I think, a lot of that is case by case with the bands. Some of the bands that have, more hardcore collector bases have to have more rigid rules in place about AP editions and those kind of things, and the numbers of posters that are circulating, and which is totally understandable. But then there are definitely clients out there that are like, oh yeah, especially as being able to print my own work.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are like, yeah, just print whatever you want. That's on you. Do that. And
that's awesome.
That's very cool.
Because I know there's always that question of like, how can an artist sort of create something for the fan base, for people that weren't at the concert, right? And makes it a little bit special and sort of causes that collector frenzy to go after it.
That we all had.
Yeah. That would be epic.
Yeah, and it really, I think case by case, a lot of the bands that have the hardcore collector bases do have to protect their system a little bit, and they're definitely giving you more strict quantities about what's allowed, and which I totally get, but it is fun, and it's also fun just to, like, if I'm printing something for Dave, and I might just, at the end of the run, I might just grab a couple sheets of a random French paper color and just throw it on this and, give him 2 extra copies on gumdrop green just for his archive, because it's fun it's fun just to see how these things translate. It's almost like a test print where, like, you get it all set up, you test your inks on the specific paper stock to make sure they're working, and then you just throw it on another color of paper and it looks completely different, but you don't even necessarily know exactly where it's going to land.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see how those things translate.
That's like true play, right? Like you're talking about original, like this tactile feeling of like I'm creating art, because you're creating art in all steps of the process, right? You're conceptualizing it, you're bringing it to fruition, and then you're actually doing the tactile printing piece of it. But like, to me, that just feels like that's just pure fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love test prints for that reason too, where it's like, and there's been times, especially when I first started printing, a few years ago, I would try to plan the 2 or 3 jobs I have coming up, and like, ooh, I'm going to take color number 2 from this one and color number 3 from this one, and try to plan out what I think will make a interesting test print. That's not how test prints become interesting. What makes them interesting is just like grabbing a few prints from your stack as you're finishing a job, or if you need to do something in the middle of a run to clean up the screen or something, and you just grab what's there and you print it. Maybe you sprayed water on the screen to help clean something up, and it ends up bleeding through onto the page, and then you end up with 10 layers of that kind of thing.
Cool.
Completely at random, and that's what makes a really cool test print. Yeah. And I love that stuff.
Do you hold on to your test prints? I know some artists every once in a while will do like a studio clear out, and you're like, hey, I've got some random test prints. Do you ever just throw those up on your site or anything like that?
I don't typically. There was one, what was it? Last year I did a VIP run for the Avett Brothers Red Rocks. It was like they do 3 nights at Red Rocks every summer. And so I did their VIP posters. And so I had an AP allotment from that. And I did mostly, a lot of just individual print by print, but I did a limited number of sets where, like, buy all 3 and you get a test print from and that's like one of the few times I've offered it. But I do, a lot of times I'll put in my Instagram story, like a test print Tuesday, or sometimes on my Instagram feed. And if somebody contacts me and says, hey, I want to buy this, is it for sale? I'll typically sell one if they want to. But I don't often like just go stock them in my web store. But yeah, if somebody is like interested in one that I post and they want it, I'll typically let them go, because I like to see them go out to collectors or fans of whatever, and it's fun. It's kind of interesting to see if you latched onto it because you can like kind of see somebody's name here, but I look at it and I see a different band here first. That's kind of the fun of the test print thing to me.
We have one. It was like a random, like a friend was going to pick up some posters from I think he was like a Facebook guy was like trying to sell off their collection. And it's an old Dave Matthews Band print from Pittsburgh. That's where Mike's from. And we had never actually seen the print before, but it was a test print. It was a Methane Studios one.
Yeah.
And
they're the best.
First of all, we kind of love a little bit of like a print rescue mission, so to speak. And it had like, you could tell like this was pinned up on somebody's wall. There was like holes. It was not even the right size. I couldn't even put it in a picture frame. Yeah. Like it was not your traditional.
Off center.
It was way off center. It was.
But there's something I love about that whole thing.
It's such a cool thing to have that piece of it, because I think part of it is for us, like maybe you can't get the actual print. Maybe that's like a piece of it. That was definitely one that we would never be able to touch that print because it's just low run, highly sought after. But to have like a piece that is like the process, right? This was like, I'm messing around with the ink and I'm going to see how this comes up. And somehow someone got their hands on it, threw it up on their, I'm going to say dorm room wall, with like push pins and tape. I mean, it had tape and everything on it. Like, but it's special for us. And we went and, I actually took it to a local print shop because, we wanted to get it framed and because it was slightly off. And I was like, actually, can you just cut it down? Because it was like an inch off, an 18 by 24 size. And, I was like, well, it's got holes in it anyway. So what's cutting it a little bit? But it's cool to have because it's like, feels like it's like a memento, a part of the process, a moment in time that was captured only then by that, that process. And I just think it's really cool because I see that you'd post some of those, the sort of like test prints, and especially when you're doing multiple ones. There was one, I think there was like a Trey Anastasio one that you had up that was like the guitar with but you also posted a test print later in that, a whole bunch of like layers on top of it.
Yeah, and that's the fun of getting in and seeing. And, it's when it happens by chance. And I like what you're saying about that piece, too, is making me think of, like, the journey that print went on to get to where it is. It's like the old, Simpsons episode of Mr. Burns' teddy bear that he's trying to chase down, and they do the backstory of everywhere that the teddy bear went.
Yeah.
And
100%. That's right.
I love that. Like, where was it in a dorm room? How did it end up there? Or like my Flatstock poster. I was at a flea market here in Pasadena and it was already framed. It was like, I can't let this go by. I have to have this, like just thinking about where has it been? How many walls has it hung on? I think that is really fascinating. And maybe it's not in 100% mint condition, but it has more of a story to it,
Yep.
I love that.
I've got a couple of those. The one that we really talked about as a true rescue was actually, ironically, it's a Dave Kloc piece.
Yeah.
And he had done this for Goose years ago. I think it was out on the West Coast somewhere. And
it's like the Planet of the Apes one.
Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah. And I think that was the day my California Goose. That's the next night in Santa Barbara.
Show.
Mine was LA. Right. His was Santa Barbara the next night.
That's right.
And
that's so cool.
I think both of those have become pretty sought after pieces in the community. And this one, I hadn't seen the foil for under multiple $100s. It had gotten up there. And there was this one on eBay, and it was like pre-owned. Condition was like fair or something like that. It was clearly
that's
not
actually,
and they're like, look
that's
at the
very
pictures.
generous, by the way.
And I looked at the pictures and I was like, oh yeah, this had some love. But the starting bid on it was $10. And so I threw $10 at it because, like you just said, they don't all have to be mint all the time. I equate it to, if somebody offered you a Babe Ruth rookie card, but it was like a 2.3 out of 10, you would still take it. You know what I mean? You would still say it's a part of the collection for a reason. Right. And the Planet of the Apes clock piece showed up, and I told Erica, I said, so when I open this, I need you to kind of roll with me on it, right? Don't judge me on what I've done. And we roll this thing out, and it looked, I mean, there were creases in it.
It didn't even come in a poster tube.
No,
like they didn't even ship it in a tube.
Yeah,
it was like a cardboard box, literally.
Yeah,
a couple days flattening it out. It's in a frame, and it worked out really well. We really like it. So to some degree, like
it means
means a little more. Yeah, it's like
it's well loved
teddy bear. Yeah,
exactly. It's got a little more of a story to it. Like I am most precious with the prints that I make that I'm sending out to the client and to my, the people that bought the AP drop or whatever, but my own prints that I collect that, all of these that I have on the wall behind me that are my friends' work, like I swap them out from time to time, and I have stacks of my friends' work and, misprints and test prints of my own. That the stuff that I collect, I'm not super precious about. I'm not a mint collector. It's just, I like to have this stuff because my friends inspire me to no end, so, and I want to just have whatever and swap them out once a year here and there when I feel like it and that kind of thing. But I am definitely most precious when it's going out to someone that bought the AP edition or my, obviously the client shipping out the show edition. I'm very meticulous about packing and handling and signing. And if I'm signing and numbering foils, I'm wearing rubber gloves and, it's like, that's important. You have to be careful. But for my own stuff, it's like, no, it's supposed to be handled and loved. And
that's right.
Yeah, we call it like both and, right? Like I like to receive a minty, crisp, beautiful poster that doesn't have any dings on the corners, and I can clearly see what number it is. And when we put it in, we frame ours, and we're just like everyone's holding things like very delicately. But I do think that
then Mike orders one off eBay that is beat up to no end. And I'm just like, I'm not going to let this one be thrown away. I will rescue it.
It does, but I think I concede that's like both and, right? You're like, it's more meaningful to have the piece that you've like are supporting a friend for or have wanted and sought after, Flatstock number one of, like that is so meaningful that the condition really isn't part of the equation because it's so, it emotionally is so weighted and important.
Yeah, and it represents something more than, it's not like I don't collect my friends' work as an investment that I've never gotten work from a friend that I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn around and try to flip it on eBay or something. Like, I just get it because I love my friend's work and I want to have it here to inspire me. And that's my motivation. So even if whatever condition it's in, the point is, just seeing it there, being able to turn around and see it on the wall behind me is what's important to me.
Absolutely.
Well, Mike, we always ask, I know there's often like all kinds of secrecy, so only to the extent you can, anything exciting coming up down the pike that you want to tease or share, and it doesn't have to be like full disclosure or anything, but just
I have a few this summer. So like I mentioned earlier, I used to live in Denver for many years and got my start on posters in Denver. And I do a few posters every summer for the events they put on at the Broncos Stadium.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which is, it's very fun and special for me. Unfortunately, they're not public facing. They're commissioned by the venue, by the stadium. So they're like VIP and they give them to the band's crew. And those usually end up being some of the biggest artists I ever work for. Like I've done the Stones twice for them. I did one for Taylor Swift there a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, those are not public facing. But they're still, great portfolio pieces for me. And I'm working on 3 of them for them this year. The first one coming up is for Ed Sheeran, so that's in the works.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
And then there's a couple more later in the summer. AC/DC is one of them. And I just confirmed my first for 311.
Oh, that's exciting.
Awesome.
So
banger posters.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I mean, that was one that like I got into 311 when I was in middle school, probably. And like, me and a couple friends, we played a 311 song in our 7th grade talent show. So
very cool.
This is like a full circle moment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty excited to have a poster in the queue. And I pitched them some merch ideas too. I don't know what'll come of that, but I pitched them like 3 or 4 different, basically just t-shirt designs.
Yeah.
But have a poster for them. And I do have one for Goose later in the summer too. That is just, most of what I'm talking about now is like, I'm not even at the sketch phase yet. It's all further out in the summer.
Very cool.
And getting ready to print another one for Dave. We just finished a couple like right in a row. And then I have another one coming right up for him, which is always a treat because, he's the best. He's one of the best people doing it. And he's also one of the most talented artists I know. So that's always fun for me.
That's so cool. And you're probably like, that's such a cool thing because you're probably the first to get eyes on something. Like you, like
and
other than
really in there.
Yeah, other than Dave, and it's like, here's my brain and I made it. Like, you're probably the first person that gets to see it outside the band and the management who says it's good to go.
It's fun. Like Dave and I have such a good relationship. And when he knows I'm going to print something too, like this one coming up, he sent me the artwork was approved, but then, he showed me the sketch early on. He kind of gets me involved earlier in the process. And then the next one we're doing, he sent me, 3 or 4 different colorways. And he was like, hey, I'm trying to decide which color to pitch to him. What do you like? And I kind of ranked them and I would start here and these are what I like. But it's fun to be involved and, we trust each other so much that it just feels, exciting and fun to be part of the process outside of my own work. I feel a little bit more invested in the process when I'm doing something with him like that too, because he brings me in earlier. It's not just, hey, here's the file and here's the quantity, go to work.
Yeah, y'all are, that's like a dynamic duo. I love it. I love it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. Creative. It's fun. And he's really smart too. Dave lays out, he does his layers and stacks colors in a way that's very different than how my brain typically works. So I always learn a lot from just kind of digging in and dissecting his file and then learning how to mix the inks so that the colors overlay to make the shadows the right way and make extra colors and that kind of thing. He does it very differently than I typically do. So I learn a ton just from getting in there and working with his file and trying to mix inks and stuff. It's really great.
That's super cool. Well, people want to keep up with you, kind of like Finger on the Pulse is the best place to follow you on your Instagram. Do you have a mailing list? Like, where can people know exactly what's coming up next for you, Mike?
Instagram is the thing I keep updated most regularly. And, that's usually the one that pushes out to my other socials. I do have a mailing list. I don't use it very often. So sign up and you're guaranteed not to be spammed because I'm terrible at maintaining it.
Does not go to the promotions tab, stays in the inbox.
Only the most important emails will you receive.
Yeah, exactly. If you're lucky, you'll get, 2 a year maybe from me. But yeah, I do I try to do like seasonal updates on the mailing list, but I don't hit 4 seasons a year ever. And then, I have DCon coming up here in Pasadena next month, and I'm sure I will get my foot in the door on another Flatstock or 2 before the year's over. I'll likely be in Las Vegas for DCon out there in the fall as well. And anything else that pops up, I'm just here in this room making stuff.
That's awesome. Well, if you're listening and you have Instagram, follow him at Add Noise Studios with 2 Ds and studios with an S at the end. We'll pop you up on the socials as well. And Mike, we're just super stoked to have been able to share some of your stories and have you on the podcast. I'm really excited to see what you've got coming up. And for anyone who just wants to go and look, do you have a store available anywhere to go kind of like pick up some, one-off pieces, or if there's anything available? I mean, look, we know it's very rare to actually be able to go to an artist shop and see anything that's actually available. But do you have a web store at addnoisestudios.com where people can maybe find a piece of artwork here and there?
I do. Yeah. I keep the shop page on my website is probably the most up-to-date thing that but Instagram and that, anytime I have a drop, it's always live on the shop first. And, I keep that pretty well updated. Occasionally I have people reach out and say, oh, hey, is there one more copy of this thing that looks like it's sold out? And I'll go digging for one. And if I find one, I'm always happy. So if you're ever searching around for one, anybody out there, let me know.
Awesome.
I did this Jeff Austin memorial when he passed. I did a Conscious Alliance poster for that show, and it's the most collectible thing I've ever done. And I get, maybe a dozen or so emails about that one every single year. And I wish I had that one, but somebody will probably hear this and think, oh, I'm going to ask him about that. But that one is long gone, unfortunately.
Okay.
But anything else, if I have it, I'm happy to dig around and try to find one for you.
Awesome. And for y'all have the opportunity, if you're listening or in the Pasadena area for the local DesignerCon or heading out to Vegas, like highly recommend going to these shows. They're just so awesome.
Yeah, DesignerCon is definitely on my list.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been on it for years. I just need to pull the trigger and make it because
Add it
it's
to the
supposedly
list.
an incredible show.
So, but
It's an
highly
interesting
recommend.
one. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's so much more than just posters and printmaking.
Yeah.
I mean, Decon is like the vinyl toys, and so like it's pretty cool. But then just the poster shows, the trip shows, and the Flatstock shows are great
awesome.
too. And we all love getting out and meeting people and talking shop and doing this kind of thing in person in real life is great.
That's the best part about it. So, well, hey, Mike, thank you so much for joining us on Best of the Tour. I'm really stoked to keep seeing what you're doing, seeing the work that you are bringing to life, that you're creating with your two hands. We're going to keep our eyes peeled for what's coming, especially for the bands that we follow. And then we're going to try to figure out a way at some point in time to make it out to some of the shows, and be awesome to meet you at one of those shows for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. And, if you're ever headed to the Los Angeles area, let me know. We'd love to get together and we'll do this in IRL.
That would be awesome, as the kids say.
That's right.
That's cool. Well, thanks for tuning in to Best of the Tour. Feel free to like and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials, wherever you catch your podcast, and we'll catch you on tour.
Thanks, y'all.
Best of the Tour is presented by Invisible Industries. Find us at www.bestofthettour.com and on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. You can also catch Erica and Mike on their other podcast, Posters in Every Direction, streaming wherever you stream your podcasts from. A big thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.